trying to get this title race going. Carl, you're shooting it down. You're saying Arsenal are going to be exhausted. Parker, help me here. Talk us through what's left for these three teams vying for the title. I'm not sure I can help you, but for all those fans of all those teams that are watching this so closely, let's have a look at the games left. I bet most fans when they go to bed can see all these fixtures in their minds anyway. It starts tonight, doesn't it, for Arsenal? Huge victory psychologically against Wolves after a horrible week for them. Can they build on that at home tonight? I think as soon as people realised that Arsenal were there in this run-in, that is the game away at Tottenham, where many of the Arsenal fans have a little bit of fear around that fixture. At home against Bournemouth, away at Manchester United, and we've spoken about the Everton one in the last few weeks. We don't know what's going to be riding on that. Maybe Everton will be safe by then, but that could prove to be huge. In terms of Liverpool, well, it's a nice tasty derby for them to get them up and running in these final sets of fixtures. Tottenham again have a say, don't they, in all three of these teams, and Villa we know how good they can be with Wolves on the final day and Manchester City still to play. Tottenham away, the hoodoo around Pep sort of disappeared slightly in that FA Cup game, but it's still not necessarily a happy hunting ground for Manchester City, and then there are other teams with maybe slightly less to play for, Forest aside, in those final few fixtures. We've been talking about who's the easiest, who's got the best or the worst, and then we have a Sunday like we did the other week with Villa and Crystal Palace winning, so who are we to predict anything? Certainly not me, because I'm looking at that and I'm thinking for Arsenal, I'm thinking Bournemouth have found a bit of form from somewhere. Manchester United will certainly want to go out Old Trafford on a high note, and Everton, who knows what they'll be playing for on the final day of the season, but it's the next two, is it? Particularly Sunday, you would think Chelsea hot and cold, although they do turn it on perhaps against the teams in the top six. It's the teams in the bottom six that have been their Achilles heel, isn't it? Yeah, it has. I mean, looking at that week that Arsenal have got coming up, I think Spurs is the really big one. They've not got a great record at Tottenham. They actually won there last season, but that was the first time they'd won there in the league since 2014, and obviously Spurs have their own issues to fight for. They're trying to get into the top four. They absolutely do not want to aid Arsenal's title charge. Then, as you say, Rob, Chelsea, I mean, who knows what Chelsea side are going to turn up? They've been really good on occasion against top six sides this season. Should have beaten Arsenal at Stamford Bridge earlier in the year. They kind of threw it away in the last 15 minutes. Obviously, we're going to talk about Chelsea a little bit without Cole Palmer, perhaps so. And even if Cole Palmer was playing, Arsenal are a better team. They should take care of business at home to Chelsea, but that Spurs game is absolutely huge. It's massive, isn't it? These are two huge games for Arsenal. I think one advantage they maybe do have, though, in this running compared to Man City and Liverpool is that 3 of their remaining 5 games are at home. You know, you look at Liverpool's fixtures, they've got only 2 of their 5 at home, and Man City actually only have 2 of their remaining 6 at home. So if Arsenal can use that home advantage to their benefit, then that could be something that helps them. And on top of that, you look at their away form and the fact they've kept 6 consecutive clean sheets on the road. So there are positive signs there for Arsenal. There are signs that they can maybe get over the line, but of course Chelsea first and then Spurs, and they are just absolutely crucial games, and you just cannot afford to slip up at this stage of the season, so they'll need to win if they can really capitalize on that little home advantage that they have in those remaining fixtures. Gary, Arsenal are top, but that doesn't really tell the story of the season, does it? No, and Arsenal fans would point to last year when they were top for more days than anyone else and it was City that still won the title. You've got to be top when it really matters. And people may be a little bit surprised to see City where they are. They started the season with the 6 straight wins, and then they had that little wobble with Newcastle and with the Wolves game. Liverpool top more days than anyone else, and it feels like Arsenal have been top of the league quite a lot this season, doesn't it? I think the league's changed nearly 20 times. Arsenal with 56. Tottenham obviously that bright start at the beginning of the first few weeks and until the game against Chelsea when things began to unravel a little bit. And what I would say about this is days at the top. And when we've had a few international breaks that maybe skews it slightly, Arsenal of course on that sort of 10-match run off the back of their winter break and their sunshine. So that sort of skews it because Liverpool and Man City had that draw and so Arsenal went top. And then we had sort of 2-week breaks. So take those figures with a little bit of a pinch of salt, but I don't know, we're looking at any clues, aren't we, as to where the Premier League might end up? Oh yeah, well, I'm looking at West Ham 2 days at the top there. Absolutely be dining out on that. Dining out from that forever. Top of the league 2 days. I'm trying to think when that would have been after match day 3. I think if my memory serves me correctly, after a 3-1 win against Brighton, I think they went top for those glorious 2 days. But Arsenal there for just 56 days at the top. But as Gareth was saying last season, they had the most number of days at the top. But does it really count? So what chances have Arsenal got of the title now? I think they've still got a good chance. It's funny, everyone kind of wrote off the title, didn't they, after the last weekend when they and Liverpool lost? But I think they've still got a good chance. I would still put my money on Manchester City. I think their running is easier. I think the fact that they got knocked out of the Champions League, their treble chances are over. I think that will only increase their determination to win the Premier League again. You can't rule out Liverpool, but I think their running is much harder than the other two. But they've got to play Tottenham and they've got to play Aston Villa. They just don't quite convince me as much as Arsenal or Man City. They're never quite as in control of games. They go behind a lot, so Arsenal still got a chance. I would still back City, but they're not out of it at all, Arsenal. It's so tight, isn't it? I mean, I think I agree Arsenal do have a decent chance. Obviously, they're dependent on Man City to a certain extent, but their defensive record is what probably gives fans the most hopes. The most hope, I think, it's difficult to even create chances against Arsenal, let alone score them. You look at the goals they conceded, it's by far the lowest. Then you look at the expected goals against, which measures the chances, the quality of the chances they're actually giving up, and again, it's just way out ahead of Man City and Liverpool. So that is something they have, that is something they have in their favor. They have a really strong defensive setup, and that is something that could maybe get them over the line. But it's hard, of course, given Man City's history. It's hard to look past them, isn't it? But it's fascinatingly poised.